Hello.
Hello, Yannick. Good afternoon.
Hi.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
How are you guys doing?
Fine. All right. Quite busy, but good. You?
Good. We've also been very busy for the last months, but we're doing well.
Recording in progress.
Okay, I think that we can start in 5 minutes. We just wait for 3-4 minutes and then we start. Okay? Hello, Domenico.
Okay, we're live on Facebook as well. YouTube had some issues,
Okay.
but we're on Facebook.
Am I host?
No, not yet. Do you want me to get you as host?
Oh, in a minute and we start.
Yeah.
Ok, Maria Grazia, il sito sarà come quello.
Giallo, una cosa importante, dobbiamo ricordare prima agli agronomi forestali italiani come poter ricevere i crediti formativi. Casomai questo lo faccio al volo io.
Sì, come? Come si può fare?
Man mano che iniziano ad entrare le persone, ogni tot di tempo decidiamo diciamo, mandiamo la comunicazione dei crediti formativi sulle modalità per ricevere i crediti formativi.
Ok.
Sì, ma questa informazione la devo dare in italiano, cioè mi posso mettere
No, lo scriviamo in italiano sulla chat, perché è una cosa che riguarda solo gli agronomi italiani,
Okay.
gli agronomi forestali italiani.
Okay, just to explain to the other attendees, we are talking about a group of participants who will receive, I would say, some credits because they belong to an association, agronomic association. So it's just something related to some of the participants, a small group of participants. We are going to start in a minute. So, Claudia, I think you can make me host.
Yes. I also wrote something in the chat, so you can directly speak about that.
Yeah.
So you host. Okay, do not forget to keep on admitting participants as well, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, Claudia, am I host?
Yes, you are.
Okay, now I can share my screen. Okay, we start in a moment. Before going to the presentation. Okay, thank you everyone for participating to this final event of eTOMATO project. We start this event And you know, I don't know if you have already received, if you have had a look at the plan. We have two main sessions. The first one is about the keynote speakers. Of course, this will be preceded by the introduction to the project. So the general introduction to the project that will be done by me. And then the first section, two key distinguished speakers from two very important universities. And then we have the introduction to the detailed introduction to the project, how the project has been unfolded and so on. And so for that presentation, we have different speakers that I will introduce you later on. Okay, the whole conference lasts 3 hours and a half, and the conference is recorded, and you will be available to find it by accessing to our YouTube channel, or it will be posted on Facebook as well in the next few days. Okay, let me share the screen. If you have any question, if you have any doubt, just raise your hand, just put your question in the chat. I don't know if you are able to raise hands, but anyway, you can put in the chat any request, and we will try to address it. Okay, let me just admit some other in the waiting room. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, Claudia, I'm sorry, let's change this part. It's better that you manage this part, and I will talk about the presentation, because otherwise I'm looking at a lot of people waiting in the waiting room.
Yeah, if you want, you can send me the PowerPoint. So otherwise, there is a button on the top right that says admit everyone. Or
yes, I will send it in.
Yeah.
Just for this presentation. Just a moment, please. Sorry. Now you should be the host.
Yeah, just 1 second. Gmail.
Okay, I'm gonna send just the presentation to be taken now, and the next the other presentation. But for the other presentation, it's better if I handle the slides, because as I told you, we have a demonstration how to work. Okay, you should have received the first presentation.
Not yet, but just because my computer now is doing a lot of stuff, so it's quite overloaded. Okay. Okay, it's a PDF, right?
Yeah, it's PDF.
Okay. Can you see it well?
Yeah, I can see it. Thank you.
Perfect.
Okay. eTOMATO stands. It's not something related to the tomato. It's something related to a different word, that is the multifunctional agriculture. eTOMATO stands for Training and Orientation, Multifunctional Agriculture, Entrepreneurial Opportunities. Okay, as you know, this is the final conference, so the project is just ending in a couple of days, and all the activities have been carried out. So now is the time to present the final results of the project. Please, Claudia, go ahead with the presentation. I'm gonna introduce a little bit of the project, and we see what the project dealt with, and just touching a little bit the tools that will be in detail introduced later on. And then we will see what is today's plan of this event that perhaps you already know. Okay, please, Claudia, go ahead. Next slide, please. Okay, what is eTOMATO? eTOMATO is an European project financed by direct funds within under the Erasmus plan. So it was financed by the agency supporting, organizing the Erasmus plan that we know, allowing students to move around Europe. Okay, this project is particular because it dealt with a specific sector. It's not a general training of students, but training applied to a specific sector that is multifunctional agriculture. And what is multifunctional agriculture? It's a mindset we named also in this way during the project development, the multifunctional agriculture, but it is in general a methodological approach to make sustainable the agriculture and to trigger rural development by reducing the use of resource and applying intersectoral framework. That means intersecting different economic sector, employing natural resources or related sector to create an agriculture that offers services along with food production. We have three main dimensions of multifunctional agriculture that we identified, we framed when we wrote the project, that are short food supply chain, rural tourism, social and didactic farming. So we worked on these three dimensions to deliver an educational part. Please, Claudia. Okay, who worked on the project? This is, I think, one of the biggest value of the project, because Europe wants that regions, countries undertake initiatives to trigger the development of territories by leveraging on common policies, that is smart specialization strategies. That means use your local resources to trigger your development. And we try to do that at European level, try to standardize this approach. And we looked at the regions having in their own smart specialization strategy, the specific key sector that is the agriculture sector. So we identified all 4 regions around Europe involving 4 different countries. Indeed, we have Italy, we have Bulgaria, we have Spain, and we have Belgium. So 4 universities, 4 farms working together in order to deliver a new course with the main aim of filling the gap existing between knowledge development, that is the specific activity that normal university does, and a skill that is what economic organization mainly ask for. So we have University of Foggia, University of Granada, University of Ghent, Agricultural University of Plovdiv, and then 4 companies. We have La Junquera from Spain, Masseria Redenta from Italy, we have Wild Farm from Bulgaria, and we have Broder Verkammen from, sorry, but to spell the name is not so easy for me, from Belgium. Okay, please, Claudia. What about the content of eTOMATO? Was to develop a new course. A new means something that is innovative, and the new approach, because we brought this project in 2017. So at the time we brought this project, of course, blended courses were spread, but not as much as today. With the COVID, many things have changed, and we know that virtual mode is something that is highly used nowadays. And we framed this blended course, that means a part to be taken in class and another part to be taken virtually, I would say, by making use of education platforms that are available. We use Moodle platform in particular. So to do this, university and farms work together to create this new educational framework, to create tools, and to create training materials. So we deliver 3 main outputs: educational framework, tools for multifunctional agriculture, and training material. The idea was to, as I said, to fill this gap from theoretical aspect to practical aspects. That's why farms and university work together, and it's absolutely innovative in the course offered by universities. Okay, Claudia, please. Of course, what is about the creation of this course, an innovative approach that we'll discuss later on, that is about taking this part in class, about taking the other part virtually, and the third stage is about taking an internship for the best performance of the course. Please go ahead, Claudia. Okay, the organization of this course reads as follows. We had an introductory module related to the general aspect, the general knowledge to be acquired for undertaking the multifunctional business, and then the second part is was just aimed at insisting on specific dimensions on multifunctional agriculture. Please, Claudia. Okay. What about expectations from students, from learners? The first expectation was that students at the end of the course were able to understand, to realize what are the needs, the real needs of this new field that is multifunctional agriculture. And then to use the tools that we developed that are like Readiness Tool and Business Model Canvas Tool. Please, Claudia. We will see what they mean. Okay, these are the tools. We have Readiness Tool. These are two links that we turn the page to the web page where we can check the tools, but we will see this later on. Please, Claudia, go ahead. And the business model competition. This is an innovative part of this methodological framework that is about allowing students to compete each other with at international level in order to race for being best performer. And the best performance meant in the project accessing to get access to the work-based experience, to one of the 4 fund partner in the project. So the first stage was to learn something from the course. The second stage was to apply what learned into practice by working at the farm. Go ahead, please. Okay, today's plan. You know, we have 2 main sessions. The first one is about keynote speakers. We'll try to address the main topics related to the multifunctional agriculture. And the first speech will be given by Professor Nina Drajewska from the Warsaw University. She's so expert about multifunctionality and particularly circular economy. She will take this speech, and I strongly encourage you to pay attention to what she will say, because it is going to be like a lecture. And the second speaker, keynote speaker, is Gianluca Brunori from University of Pisa, and I'm so honored to have him here, because he some way inspired this project. When we wrote this project, we had an experience with this professor in Tuscany, and from that experience, everything started. Second session is about our presentations. So we will introduce the tools, the course experience, how the course is framed, and work-based experience before going to the closing. Between the 2 sessions, we'll have 15 minutes of break. Okay, I think that I said everything. Okay, here we find the team, our team. If Claudia would like to click on this, okay, you can access to our website.
Sorry. Let me do it again. 1 second.
Okay.
I didn't know there was a link on the.
Okay, is Nina around?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Okay.
Time is up. Sorry, Lina, for being late. Okay, I think that we can go to. You should just click on team.
Yeah, I did, but I need to switch the
okay, this is the
of my
thing
video.
that. Okay, here is not indicated all the persons who were involved in the project, but most of the team is reported in this page. So this more or less is the team that worked on the project during these 3 years. Okay, now it's the turn of Nina Drajewska from the University of Warsaw. Please, Nina, the floor is yours.
Gianluigi, thank you very much for this this introduction, and I would like to thank you, the entire team who devoted their time, work, and input to the project. I am very honored to be with you and to speak and at the beginning, and then I hope to contribute somehow to the discussion that will occur after my presentation. So thanks a lot for this opportunity. Yeah, this is the topic of my presentation, multifunctionality and circular economy. As it was already said, my name is Nina Drejewska. I work at the Warsaw University of Life Sciences, Poland. So this is one of the biggest university of life. I mean, in fact, this is the biggest university of life sciences in Poland, and one of the oldest universities in our country. So it's really a pleasure to be with you and to talk about these topics from the perspective of eTOMATO project, because as far as I know these activities and the outputs of them, they are very much connected with this theories, ideas, issues. So can I ask for the next slide, please? Thank you very much. So the first idea which came to my mind when I was thinking about this presentation was to realize about the role of these particular issues in scientific state of the art. So the first idea was to check how much functionality is referred in the research papers. And to be honest, I was a little bit surprised. Here you can see multifunctionality mentioned about 5,600 times within publications selected from the Web of Science core collection. And to be honest, I was a little bit surprised because in my mind and in my understanding of the topic, I was so used to the idea of multifunctional development, especially regarding agriculture and rural areas, that I was a little bit surprised that there is not. I mean, there are publications, there are research, but not so many, as you will see in the moment, referring to circular economy. So this is the topic which is referred to within different fields of science and research areas. I will skip the topics and ideas connected purely with, for example, chemistry or material science, as this is not in the main field of my interest. But here you can see that agriculture, geography, public administration, business economics, urban studies. So these are the research areas which cover the topics connected to multifunctionality. And I was wondering also where these topics are important. So on the right, you can see the picture which illustrates affiliations of authors of these papers, of these contributions, and I'm really satisfied to see the countries which represent the partners of the eTOMATO project, as it was already mentioned by Gianluigi. So we can see here Italy, Spain, and Belgium. There is also Poland. As far as I found, I didn't find Bulgaria, but nevertheless, I can imagine that this is also the topic which is important for the studies in this country. So here you can see that multifunctionality is without any doubt the idea which is important, which is widely studied, and also the number of publication is growing year by year. So I appreciate that the authors of the project team, that you started with these ideas and you managed to go to the end and have great outcomes of this project. So this is just only about the, let's say, the role and scale of multifunctionality research within scientific publications. Of course, at every beginning.
Nina, yeah, we lost you for a second, yeah.
Next one, please. Can you hear me?
Yes, now we do.
Okay, thanks. So of course, it's important to wonder, to think what does multifunctionality means. And here I didn't want to let's say discover things which you already discovered within the project. So I simply referred to the multifunctional agriculture idea you referred within the project. So for this, what I found important from my perspective and also my research areas, this is diversifying. So this is one of the key words which is important. So diversifying of agricultural business. And what I also found very important with this diversification, that you refer to the triple bottom line outcomes. So those dimensions which I think all of us know from purely from the sustainability ideas. So environmental aspect, social aspect, and economic aspects. So these are the issues very important for multifunctional agriculture, and also what is maybe a wider approach, multifunctional rural areas. So and this is also the issue that you already touched within the project. And I want to stress some points important from the perspective of the project, how I can say it as a, let's say, external person. But what is important for my presentation, and next slide, this is the last line of the text. Sorry, can we come back? Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, this one.
Okay.
Thanks. So this, which is what you stressed for the project, that these outcomes should be brought to bring benefits to as many stakeholders as possible. And this stakeholder issue and stakeholder approach is, let's say, the base. I would like to develop my my presentation today. So diversity, triple bottom line outcomes, so environment, so society and economy. This will be, let's say, repeated all over the time, and also the perspective of different group of stakeholders. Next one, please. Yeah, so the same, let's say, exercise which I did with multifunctionality. Then I tried to apply to circular economy, and with this idea, you can see that this is very popular among research and publications. So you can see also more than 13,000, even close to 14,000 of publications which are available within Web of Science core collection. So this is definitely the topic, the keyword, which is, and the phenomena lying behind it, which is studied and important for current science. And what is also really interesting, that you can see on the graph at the bottom, that these are the last years which brought really increasing interest in circular economy. So this is reflected within the number of publications from this year, previous, and let's say 2019 and 2018. Before this topic was not so widely investigated, and the publications were not so much connected with the circular economy. And again, the same exercise, I was interesting how which research areas reflect this field of interest. And here you can see again we have, for example, some engineering, environmental or energy fuels, material science. So these are let's say hard topics that of course they are important, but not in the scope of purely economists and business studies. But what we can see also here, that management, business, and other, let's say, social sciences are engaged in this research areas. And again, this topic is very much present in the countries that you represent across the consortium, across the project consortium. And this is also the topic present in Polish research very much. So altogether, these two simple exercises brought me the idea that you referred in your project to really important issues which are widely studied now, and there is increasing interest in them. So this means that the results you get within the project are somehow they are important for the future, at least a few years, because of this growing tendency in the interest of these topics. Can I ask for the next one, please? Thank you very much. So with multifunctionality, it was very easy to refer to, because you already did it within the project ideas. And now I would like just to simply refer to the circular economy, and I've chosen one of the simplest definition I found in the state of the art. And in fact, this is the definition provided by European Commission. So maybe this is not for sure this is important, but what is also important from the perspective of different groups of stakeholders is that this is in fact a definition provided by the, let's say, policy area. It's, I mean, in a moment I will tell and speak about different stakeholders group. So this is also important to stress that we have not only this scientific approach, but also this, let's say, maybe more practically oriented, generated by policy. As I already displayed and stressed, circular economy is widely discussed, so you probably are more or less familiar with the idea. But just to refer to it very quickly and at the basic level. So the idea is that the value of the products, materials and resources is maintained in the economy as long as possible, so the generation of waste is minimized. And even here it's important to mention that in the definition you can find the word waste, but in fact we are not talking and not investigating waste anymore. We are treated them as side materials or even food for further processes. So even if you can see the word waste in this definition, this is not the case that we understood waste in a very traditional way. In fact, this is really important volume of values. So these are in fact side products and materials for further circles. Here you can see the one circle. This is the simplest approach to circular economy, but in the state of the art and also in the policy papers and policy documents and strategies, there are a lot of references to the picture, which I not included in my presentation today. But this is the graph provided and generated by Ellen MacArthur Foundation, which in fact present two circles which are different for renewable and non-renewable materials. As we are here gathered among the issues connected to agriculture, today I focused on these renewable materials, as this is the one, let's say, part of the circular economy. However, we couldn't forget about all non-renewable materials for which another circle can be illustrated and investigated. What is important here is to mention that the circle, of course, starts from raw materials, and then if we go inside it, then design is the phase. Even I cannot name it first phase. Because of the circular character of this process, but nevertheless, design is so important for the next steps and the next phases in this circle. And what is important from the perspective of eTOMATO project, and what I found it in common with this approach, is that design in circular economy, it requires a high level of innovativeness. So new thinking, new materials, new applications, and thinking about the products and the value across entire circle. This is the key approach, and what I found also stressed by Jan Luigi introducing the project, that innovativeness, this is the case that you are very close about within the project. So starting from this design through manufacturing, production, then distribution, and then consumption, use, reuse, and repair. This maybe is more typical for new non-renewable sites, but also we can refer to some of them for renewables, and then collection, and then recycling, and only a minimum amount and minimum value of waste which drops out from the circle. So in fact, it's I think that a lot of sources, a lot of authors stress that in fact we are not able to manage now without any waste. So the ideal situation would be to keep the value all over next circles, but still we have some technical limits which don't allow us to behave without any waste. So let's say starting from this very simple circle, then we can think about introducing and implementing the circle for agriculture, for economy of rural areas. Okay, can I ask for the next one? Yeah. So I've already referred to some phrases important from the perspective of the topic of my presentation, from the perspective of the project, but to see maybe the wider background and to put them in a wider environment of discussion. So this is multifunctional agriculture. This is, of course, circular economy, sustainability. Then a very important topic and area as bioeconomy. Altogether, we can think about agriculture as a part of wider bioeconomy sector. So these are the, let's say, the phrases, the topics which are present not only in the research discussions and investigations, but also at this policy level. And you can see this is just the example of the report from 2018. So this is about now 4 years that we are talking and we are dealing with sustainable circular bioeconomy. And this is what I can see as a wider background for a multifunctional agriculture and a circular economy itself. The next one, please. And this is, I think, the slide I will talk the longer. It will take me the longest time to talk about, as I tried to interpret the actions you do within the project from the perspective of a quadruple helix model. So I tried to use this model as a theoretical background, of course, for general presentation of multifunctionality and circular bioeconomy. But as we gathered here because of the eTOMATO project, so it was natural for me to interpret this theoretical approach through the lens, through the perspective of the project. So again, quadruple helix model is widely published and used for different analysis and investigations. Here you can see, I mean, the initial, the center of this picture, the initial part which I took, which I refer, is from one of the Horizon 2020 project, BioVoices. But then I developed it to think and to analyze the activities which take place within the project and around. So usually when I refer to this model, I start from the research and education sphere, as I am the direct representative of this circle. So as I work at the university, I work as the researcher. This is the area closest to me. So you can, I mean, this is not, it's very easy to identify that this sphere, so researchers, but also academic teachers, they are closely involved, directly involved in the project, eTOMATO project. And here I referred to the universities directly engaged in the project consortium. But what I found quite interesting is, so I circled the 4 universities engaged, and what I found quite interesting, that in the right bottom corner, you can see the name of my university, and so Warsaw University of Life Sciences. And this is simply the layout of the presentation. But then I thought that okay, it's quite interesting that it works like that. I mean, there are universities directly involved in the projects, so project consortium members, but in fact, your universities you cooperate and you are the members of the of different networks. So there are so many other universities which can refer to the results you achieved, which can take something from these results to make their research and their teaching better for multifunctional agriculture and multifunctional rural development. So at the beginning, that was the coincidence for me that the name of my university appeared close to the project consortium members. But then I thought, okay, I can interpret it properly from the perspective of what is going on in reality. So I have no doubt that this is the sphere, and the actions done by this research and education institutions, they are important for multifunctional, innovative agriculture. Then we have the business sphere. Then we have the business sphere, and it was already mentioned that there are companies, there are farms included in the project consortium. So of course, this is important to have this, let's say, representatives from the practical sphere of real economic processes taking place on the market. So I allowed myself to use the logotypes of the project partners involved in eTOMATO, and then let's switch to the left side of this graph. We have a group of customers, individuals, groups, communities related to different activities of your let's say business partners. So customers of the food products, of any products generated by the business partners, but also all individuals which are somehow influenced by these operations, when they are done according to sustainability rules, then they influence, of course, directly on the customers, but also on all individuals which lie in the sphere of the operation of these business units. And at the end, public administration. So you can see that this is important to have, let's say, policymakers, local authorities, municipalities on the board. Let's say on the way towards multifunctional agricultural multifunctional development of agriculture. So here, again, this is a very simple interpretation that the project is co-funded by European Union. So without doubt, there is this public perspective on these activities, and what is important, this quadruple helix model, I tried to present it and to describe it from the perspective of the eTOMATO project, but this is important to be able to see these groups of stakeholders involved in the processes of the processes which are important for rural economies. Next one, please. Can I ask for the next slide?
Yeah, I already put the next slide. Can you see it?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Now
sorry.
I can
So
see.
maybe it was a little bit slow.
Yeah, a few. I should wait a few seconds to see
Okay.
the result of the action. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nevertheless, again, being so involved in the research and education, and especially in the university education, I thought that it's important to refer to the transformation of a global production system towards a knowledge-based bioeconomy. This is the concept and the sentence introduced by Pyka in 2017. Andreas Pyka, the professor from the University of Hohenheim. But I can see this process and this transformation important from the perspective of multifunctional, sustainable, circular bioeconomy. So multifunctional agriculture lies inside or in scope of this process. When we start at the beginning from this perspective of modern innovation economics, which refer to economics, to neo-Schumpeterian economics, focused on qualitative aspects of economic development. So not only quantitative growth. I will refer in a minute to this area, but also qualitative aspect of development. This is important, and this requires, as you can see in the second step, this requires change of the fundamental economic structures in the long time period. And for this, we need additional demand for high. Maybe not. We don't need this. This contributes to additional demand for high-skilled workers. Highly well-educated people also, and this contributes to decreasing opportunities for low-skilled workers. And as a result, we need the interdisciplinary approach for tertiary university education in widely understood life sciences. And this is the process, as I said, initially introduced by Pyka to knowledge-based bioeconomy, but this I think can be is is appropriate for the perspective of multifunctional agriculture and rural areas. Can we go next? Thank you very much. Just to finish with this quadruple helix model for multifunctional, sustainable, circular bioeconomy. Sometimes it can sound as just keywords used, but I think all of them are important when we know what lies behind them. But trying to sum up somehow the quadruple helix model from the perspective of multifunctional, sustainable, circular bioeconomy, what is important, and I think that was already present in my speech today, is that we need all these stakeholders to be engaged because their cooperation is necessary for structural changes. And what is important, that we need the proactive collaboration among those stakeholders for those four groups which I specified, which were specified on the picture before. And we need all of them at the same time, at the same processes, because sectoral cooperation of 2 or even 3 groups is not enough. I mean, academia only with public policy and governments, these 2 groups, we will not achieve efficient results and real outputs of the transformation without society, without consumers, without individuals, without business, so farmers, companies, entrepreneurs. So all of them are necessary to take. It is necessary for all of them to take part in this transformation. And what is stressed recently in different policies of the European Union, that we need to put this transformation in the perspective of needs of the citizens. So these are the this should be the central point to be able to achieve long time outcomes. Thank you. Can I ask for the next? And as I already took much time, so maybe I will try to be a little bit quicker with the second part of my presentation, because those what I already presented, these are the topics very much present and discussed as I proved within the scientific state of the art, scientific literature. But what is important, I sometimes have the impression that this is discussed especially from the perspective of life sciences and agricultural and rural areas issues. But what I found really interesting and present, let's say, in a general economic disputes, this is the concept of and the model of donut economics introduced by Kate Raworth, and this is the book published in 2017, where we can find a direct, let's say, direct references to circular approach, even if she doesn't stress so much circularity, but she uses the word and the phrase regeneration and regenerative approach, but just simply and quickly to refer to this model introduced by Kate Raworth. What is important? Important is to stay in the sphere, which is illustrated by the gray circle on the left. So this is the space which is safe and just for humanity, and below it, below the some social fundamentals, some social foundations, there are some risks connected with critical human deprivation. So this is there are some limits from the bottom, but also there are some limits from the tops. So there is this ecological ceiling, and when we cross it, some critical planetary degradation can take place. So no one should fall below this social foundation, and no one also should go beyond this ecological ceiling. So this the safe area lies between these two spheres. And of course, on the left, you can find a very basic approach. The discussions with this approach lead to the development of it. And on the right, you can see that there are more details added to this donut donut model, but nevertheless, we still the idea is to stay in the safe and just space. And at the bottom of this red circle, you can see regenerative and distributive, and this regenerative phrase pretty well reflects the circularity I've already discussed. Can I ask for the next one, please? So Rayward proposes 7 ways to think like a 21st century economist. So I would like, I just like to place all these issues within, let's say, economic and business state of the art. So she offers these 7 ways, and what there is one which is important from the perspective of my presentation today. This is create to regenerate, and this is the illustration referring and the approach referring directly to circularity and the paradigm of circular economy. Yeah, but here you can see these 2 circles, and Rayward calls them even butterfly. So these 2 circles reminds her the butterfly, which can help us to think like a 21st century, according to the to this rule, to this approach that we have to create new services, new products, new values, but in a way that they can be regenerated. And there are 2 circles. So this butterfly has 2 parts. One is they are different because of different character of the materials and sources applied. So we can distinguish between renewable, so biological resources, and we can distinguish these new renewable resources. And the character is, I mean, there are, of course, some specific rules for both parts of this butterfly. What is important from the perspective of biological part, so such crucial for agricultural production and agri-food sector is that all this stuff should be harvested not faster than nature can regenerate them. So this is one principle that Rayward proposes, and then she shortly refers to the processes widely studied in life sciences. So she stresses cascade use of biomass. There is a huge amount of sources on multi-cascade use of biological resources. So the approach that we use resources to generate products, and then at least once more the materials from these products are used in this circle. So there is maybe I will not go now into so much into details, as there is a pure, let's say, economist discussion with them. With the economic schools of thoughts and economic theories, but to save time, maybe I will ask for the next slide. So next one, please.
Yeah, talking about which, I think we're running short on time. So maybe if you can close the presentation in the next 2 minutes.
Yeah, this is the last one. So for the next one, please. Yeah, so this is the last slide. When I would like to stress with this slide, I would like to stress that I've already talked about sustainability, multifunctionality, innovativeness, but this is a big role for young generation to be played in this transformation. For this transformation of agri-food systems and rural areas. And what I found, of course, within your consortium, you can find a lot of examples of innovative approach and innovative practices for multifunctional, sustainable agriculture. But what inspired me a lot was the EuroLeague Scientific Student Conference, which took place a year ago. Unfortunately, that was done only online because of the pandemic restrictions. But what I would like to conclude, and what was very much impressed were the examples of startups started by the students. So we've heard about 3 Austrian startups and students talking about their entrepreneurship activities in order to implement the social and sustainable transformation processes. And I was so impressed by the example of one Austrian student. You can find her name here. So Maria Georgiades, she's the student of master student of wood technology and management, and she started the company which used hemp hulls to produce the elements of climbing walls. So on the right bottom, you can see the picture. This is not the picture of this particular stuff, just to illustrate that this climbing wall element can be produced using hemp hulls, so something which was considered as a waste from the agricultural production processes. So I was so impressed and so also motivated for further research by this example that I would like to wish all of students who participated in your project to be so innovative, so energetic, and so devoted to sustainable transformation towards multifunctional agriculture. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nina. Thank you. Thank you very much for your much interesting presentation and for addressing these cutting-edge topics. And thank you for finding links with the eTOMATO project that is highly encouraging for the sustainability itself of the project. So we are going to shorten a little bit the session related to the comments and questions, and we will soon go to the next presentation. It's the turn of Professor Gianluca Brunori, that is food professor at the University of Pisa of Food Policy. Professor Gianluca Brunori, as I said at the beginning of the event, is some way who inspired this project, because this is, I would say, the follow-up of a summer school that some of us undertook during the summer 2017, and from that experience something came up. Okay, Professor, the floor is yours. I think that you should be able to share in a while, because
Hello, Professor. Yes, do you have a presentation to share?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so I will assign you as a host. So
okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Gianluigi, for inviting me. And I'm happy that the summer school generated this idea, because this for a professor means that it is not a waste of time. I mean, so I'm asked to speak about multifunctionality, agriculture, and rural development. So on this regard, and I am sharing my screen, I would like to have a look at the potential futures, because I think that we are in a time where everything is changing, so we really need to think about the future. And I would start from the rural. What is rural and why rural is important? You may remember that until a couple of years ago, there has been a huge movement in France called Gilets jaunes, in which a lot of people came in the street in Paris, sometimes with riots, etc. But the protest was triggered by the tax on gasoline that Macron put to contribute to the reduction of greenhouse emissions. And actually the people protesting was especially rural people who normally work in the town, in Paris especially, and they have to commute every day and run a lot of kilometers. So for them, the car is a need, and if you increase the price of the gasoline, you really decrease their quality of life. So it is this aspect, together with some elections, local and national elections, showing that the protest was mainly in rural areas, that also the Commission started to raise the eyes and try to see and to understand what is happening in rural areas and what is the future of rural areas. So for this reason, for example, now we have the long-term vision for rural areas. You may have seen the document of the Commission. There has been a long-term consultation, a lot of stakeholders. The GRC have done some foresight, and now there is a vision, at least a sketch of the potential vision for rural areas. But before talking about this, I would like to make a step behind and try to see in the past how the development of rural areas have been addressed by the scholars. So we have three main narrative. The first is modernization, the second is endogenous development, and the third is neo-endogenous development. What do this narrative mean? First of all, modernization. According to modernization, and the book you can see here, the Arthur Lewis is a Nobel Prize, who says that the economy is based on two sectors. One is the innovative sector, and the other one is the backward sector. And no need to say that the countryside and the agriculture is the backward sector. And in terms of the idea of modernization, rural development is nothing else than urbanization. So the idea that if you industrialize the countryside, if you introduce the industrial model into agriculture, there will be increasing innovation, productivity, and specialization and integration with the supply chain. And so the agricultural sector will develop, and to a certain extent will release labor power that will go into the industry. But this is an idea that has been dominant for a lot of time, but at a certain point, somebody started to see that modernization had not developed many rural areas. On the contrary, some rural areas were really, let's say, lagging behind. And so in this regard, another school, the school called endogenous development, have started to consider alternatives to the modernization. And the book you can see on the right is from Jan Douwe van der Ploeg, who was one of the most relevant theoreticians of the endogenous development. The idea of Jan Douwe van der Ploeg is that there are areas and farmers especially that try to distantiate, to detach from markets and technologies, and looking for alternative pathways of development based on building a rural identity. So they refuse the idea of modernization, that in order to develop, you have to become let's say, industrial or adopt the urban model. And actually, what these models proposes is to look at the local assets, endogenous resources, and mainly natural resources or social capital, because these are really the assets that are relatively cheap in rural areas and can be mobilized to consider alternative pathways of development. And for example, in the economic life, the idea is that the quality of life can be traded with monetary income. So there is a lot of people that maybe are, let's say, happy to reduce income, but having a better quality of life. And also, in this case, the endogenous development may mean stressing on quality rather than quantity, whereas modernization was really obsessed by quantity. But at the same time, in times of globalization, endogenous development risked to be considered a kind of isolationism approach. So if you cut the links with the town, with the urban areas, and with global markets, the risk is to fall into a trap, an underdevelopment trap. So not always endogenous development approaches has generated let's say, growth, prosperity, or even what was, let's say, aimed. So in the end, taking the good parts of the endogenous development, a new approach that we could call a post-productive paradigm has been generated. This paradigm, this narrative, starts from the idea that there is a shift from quantity to quality. But at the same time, there is an increased attention to the multiplicity of functions of agriculture. So agriculture is not just to produce food or non-food, but material aspects. Agriculture, as you know, can produce ecosystem services, social relations, landscapes, cultures, etc. And the idea of this paradigm is to exploit economically some functions not necessarily linked to material production. And in this case, the weight of symbolic components becomes very important. So communication in general, but the production of symbols. And at the same time, the countryside is seen as a node of global networks. So instead of the endogenous development that tend to consider a kind of isolation of rural areas from the rest of the world, the post-productive paradigm considers differentiated economies and territorial marketing. The idea is that rural areas drawing on endogenous resources and shifting to quality can compete with in the global market, positioning itself in a different way from urban areas. And actually, this approach, or a synthesis of this approach, is now become, to a certain extent, mainstream, because, for example, this is a graph taken by the OECD recently in a recent paper, and it shows the importance of linking together rural areas and rural urban areas, because the idea is that each of them need the other, but the problem is to understand what needs are of each of them, and what is the, let's say, the remuneration of each of the services that, for example, rural areas provide to urban areas. And the governance structure should recognize these services that rural areas provide to urban areas. So if we consider this spatial relations between rural and urban areas, you can see that rurality is not a condition which is homogeneous everywhere, because we can find very lively rural areas and very, let's say, degraded rural areas. One of the aspects of the vitality of rural areas is the concept of centrality, peripherality. If the access to centers of economic activity is easy, and so if access to services is easier, and if socioeconomic integration are strong, then there is a centrality and there is competitiveness. If not, there are some problems. So, for example, OECD considers 3 categories of rural. Rural inside the functional urban areas. So they are rural, but at the same time, they are integrated in broader economies. Rural outside functional urban areas, so they are quite far from them, but still there is an integration. And then there is remote rural. So when JRC considered the scenarios, doesn't consider these differences between different types of rurals. But to a certain extent, this is taken into consideration with 2 criteria. One is demography, and the other one is governance. So when demography is, let's say, increasing, so population is increasing, or at least it's not decreasing, and governance is, let's say, coordinated, then we have a situation of rural renewal. So there are different other combinations, and JRC report describes each of these scenarios in an articulated way. So in a work we have done recently, we have tried to articulate a little bit better this approach, especially considering the differences that the different rural areas have. So we have tried a similar exercise, but considering as a basic hypothesis that, and I will tell you later on, that the Green Deal targets are respected anyway. So we put to our scenarios development a kind of constraints. We want to see how scenarios to 2015 different types of scenario can meet the targets provided by the Green Deal. And actually the key drivers are state intervention on one side and vitality of rural community on the other side. Why state intervention? And you can see now with our resilience plan, we have a lot of money all across Europe that can support the transition of our economies. So state intervention is a key driver for rural development. And the other driver is the vitality of rural communities, and especially the role of social capital and social innovation, entrepreneurships, and openness closure. You may know for sure that the Green Deal has a lot of targets, but some of them are quantified specifically. So 50% of reduction of pesticides, 50% of nutrient losses, 50% antimicrobials, 25% more organic farming. So there are very strict and very clear targets. So the idea is to see how these targets can be achieved in different types of rural areas. And for this reason, we have considered these uncertainties for the scenario. So we have hypothesized that interventionism can be high and low, and we have considered and named the one status as high interventionism. So all the components of the political systems are strongly committed to achieve the goals with the financial funds, with regulation, with all the instruments they have. And the opposite situation is green liberalization. So no money, but targets achieved through regulations or to constraints to spending, to technology push and business-friendly policies. So there are, at least in this field, two different approaches. One is very, let's say, liberal or neoliberal. So no intervention with financial means, but just regulation and business and technology. And the other one is with a strong intervention of the state. But the other uncertainties are related to the vitality of rural community. So one is strong rural community, and the other one weak rural community vitality. For example, in situation when there is conservatism, closure, fragmentation, prevalence of lobbies, or political patronage. So this is the result of our exercise. We have different combinations. For example, when you have a kind of a green liberalization, so mainly technology and regulation rather than fiscal intervention, and you have high vitality of rural community, you can find situations like global niche, food districts, or sustainable intensification. In a moment, I will explain a little bit further these aspects. But we may have a situation where the vitality of rural community is low. So in most of the cases, it is population has already gone, and it is very difficult, at least in the short term, to revitalize in terms of demography, also for the conditions of the area. So, but in case of high level of interventionism, we can think about what we call managed renaturalizations. And then we have other two scenarios. One is the one where we consider land grabbing and abandonment. So in this case, there is liberalization, so regulation of environmental standards, but low vitality of rural community and no financial support to rural areas. And this is a situation, the most critical one. And then there is the optimal situation, at least in the idea of prosperous rural development, which is called smart villages and multifunctional rurality. So I will show in a very few minutes the characteristic of these scenarios. The scenarios of global niches. This is a picture of a very well-known village in Tuscany, San Gimignano, which attracts millions of tourists. So it is a rural area, but it attracts really millions of tourists, also because it's not very far from Florence and from other important cities in Tuscany. What do this scenario mean? In this scenario, there is a strong specialization in tourism and quality food. They are very strongly export-oriented. The landscape management is very well considered because it is an attraction for tourists. There are vibrant small farm communities. Also, these villages can attract artists and seasonal residents, but there is a risk that we consider gentrification. So this means that progressively these areas are inhabited by wealthy foreigners who buy everything and to a certain extent displace local population. This is something that is already happening. And this is an example of the symbolic production in rural areas. This is a cellar built and designed by Renzo Piano, a very famous architect, in the rural area in the southern Tuscany. You can see this building from the highway, so it is very visible, but when you visit this, you really visit this not just because of the wine, because this is a wine cellar, but because the architecture. So, and it is very famous. So it has been a production of a symbol, but because it links the place to an artist production. But there are also another scenario in the same, let's say, quadrant, and this is the food district. In this case, we see already in Italy, for example, very, let's say, quality product with local identity that find the markets in the world, and so they start to grow. And actually, they specialize into this. These productions. So the places are really districts of production of quality. And what are the risks of it? And the risk is sometimes related to the specialization and to the erosion of other resources, because if they absorb all resources without, let's say, balance between different types of resources, the risk is that in the end, a crisis, for example, a global crisis, put in a full crisis these areas. And we also have the scenario of a sustainable intensification. And this is very much related to wealthy agricultural areas. And you see in this case that integration of agriculture is into global value chains, but let's say technologies and organization and farm sites are concentrated around the targets of the Green Deal. So this is something that is possible, is happening, and it is a kind of pathway that has been already made. So in cases where rural population is shrinking and rural communities are less than vital, So the possible scenario can be the managed renaturalization. So, and this is very much, for example, related to the idea of natural parks. In natural parks, the activities are constraints, but also investments, public investment support the economic actors to activate alternative types of economy. So in this case, the managed renaturalization stress very much on ecosystem services, try to attract people who live in green areas, but there is also an encouragement of farm and forest consolidation, because sometimes fragmentation is very difficult to manage. And in this case, we can find initiatives like carbon farming, so getting public subsidies to produce carbon storage, or forest management, or alternative energies, or also natural parks. And then we have a more, let's say, dystopian scenario, but is it okay?
Sì,
There should be someone with the
no, domani ancora di più.
You can
Okay.
deactivate other.
Sì, sì,
You can deactivate other people's
piano.
microphones if you need.
is Gianluca Belsito.
Yeah.
Can you please switch off your microphone?
Okay.
Okay, so I think we are. Sorry. Yes, so in this case, we have already examples. I think that the Polish colleague may confirm that in Eastern Europe, especially in Romania, Bulgaria, but also other countries, there is, let's say, a growing concentration of farming and the buying of huge portions of land from financial capital. And this means that the rural areas are desertified. But at the same time, there are economic opportunities for business. For example, again, carbon farming or a solar panel. But in this case, the question is, it is socially, let's say, sustainable, this situation, and someone could have some doubts. But then the most, let's say, optimist scenario that I leave as the last point is multifunctional rurality. In this case, we see urban-rural integrations. There are welfare systems that support the life in rural areas. There is a coexistence between small farming and larger scale farming. Part-time farming has a role in this economy because they help to support incomes and at the same time to, let's say, to support multifunctionality. And in this case, the keywords for business models is diversification. And in the picture, you can find the farmers market as a kind of example of this integration between rural and urban areas. And the smart villages are not a separate scenario, but is something that is related specifically to, let's say, to residence areas. In this case, digitalization is considered a driver to attract people that are willing to have a better quality of life, but have a job in urban areas. And during COVID, this scenario has become inspiration for many municipalities that have trying to attract people, normally skilled people in rural areas that can, and of course they have to offer them services, housing, etc. And this figures out different types of development for rural areas, because in this case you attract not just tourists but residents, and so you have to offer them quality services in terms of social services, but also commercial services, etc. So to get to the conclusion, you know that the vision for the long-term vision for rural areas is based on 4 adjectives: connected rural areas, resilient rural areas, prosperous rural areas, stronger rural areas. So the aim is to have these 4 qualities together. And but we have also seen that depending on the vitality of the local communities and on the characteristics of the intervention, of the state intervention, this is something that may change substantially. So it is very important to consider the quality of the policies and the quality of the intervention in policies. And with this, I would like to thank you.
Okay, thank you, Professor. Thank you for your highly interesting presentation. And it's always interesting to follow your speeches. And I have a question related to, because you talked about state of intervention and the degree of liberalization. Okay, in light of the future developments of European policies, in light of the National Plan of Recovery and Resilience, in light of the new Common Agricultural Policy, what should be the trade-off to engage, to trigger sustainable development for rural development, of course, but also for the agricultural sector as a whole?
No, I would say that in light of the resilience plan and also the rural development strategies, the risk for rural areas is that they don't have enough design capacity to activate a pathway of development, because all these projects are based on all these interventions are based on projects. So if you have a network that is able to design a project and to apply for money, they will be funded. But if you have communities where ideas lack, people is conservative, they have already, let's say, given up the ideas of development. So in this case, it's very difficult. And so intervention should be much more at the roots of these attitudes. For example, they should be related to the social capital, to the building of networks, etc. The risk here is that there is a lot of hurry, because there are a lot of money, but you need to have very prompt and ready projects. So if you don't have them, the risk is that all those who have a very good project get the money and the others don't. So the question is, how do we reach communities that are not even able to produce nice projects? And it is not sufficient that there are, let's say, consultants that make up a design, because a project should be participated, should be population behind it. And so this means activities that are related to the community building, to the creation of a community. And sometimes this is more difficult.
So, Professor, you think that addressing by the law that should indicate, for example, by the project codes, that some partners, most advanced partners, should some way foster, should some way push the other that are in the, I would say, at the bottom class of the society to engage in something together, in order to enact this exchange between those on top of the society and those at the bottom, without idea, without anything that can help you for looking at the future in a positive way. So these two sides should cooperate each other.
Yes, I think that this is the model. I mean, we have this model in research, for example, since a longer time. And in 20 years of European research, we see that a space for European research has been created. And the idea is that you have to make people cooperate and collaborate. Maybe the depth of the research and the depth of the innovation is not the same you could reach if you had people just of your language, for example, that talk the same language and have the same idea and go very much in depth. Because when you have a network, you need to negotiate with other people. You have different types of skills, etc. But this helps to create convergence. And I think that if we had the possibility to do this in a very, let's say, intensive way at all levels, I think that we could make strong steps forward. I see that with these policies of the PNR, to a certain extent, there is this approach, at least for coordination. In terms of, let's say, what is important and what is the link between the social innovation and technical innovation, I have some, let's say, some doubts, because I see still separation. So there is social, there is technical, but there is no integration between the two. I am very strongly convinced that in order to have innovation, you need both technical and social innovation.
Okay, thank you, Professor. Thank you very much. Any other question, comments from the audience? Okay, okay. Yes, that's it. I have a question also for Nina. Nina, can you hear me?
Yes, I am here.
Yes. Okay, you mentioned you talked a lot, of course, because it was the topic of your presentation, the circular economy. But do you think that, just to connect with what was presentation held by Professor Brunoli, do you think that the communities are ready for turning to circular economy? The human capital, the social capital, is it ready? Do you think that we are ready to engage in this new path?
Thank you for this question, and I think that you already touched a part of the answer. Is human capital, is social capital already? So definitely at this, I mean, from my perspective, we need a lot of education, and this is the case. How this education should be provided. This is not the formal education. These are the skills which were, I think, already discussed in a minute before. The cooperation between people, trying to find common solution. These are some kind of universal issues which are necessary together with the specialist and expert knowledge on circularity and the properties of materials, renewables and new renewables. So I mean, what is important is development of education, this and implementation of education, this let's say this parts which we traditionally address, so soft skills, let's say, and plus this knowledge on the circularity and the technologies and design and so on and so on. So that is the case. I do not know the precise research results. Are we ready now or not? But I think that we are not fully ready for sure. So there is a space for education in different kinds. And so formal and non-formal education. That's my perspective.
Okay, there is a question for the audience that is from Natalie Merino, and she's asking, how can we measure the entrepreneurial orientation of the small-scale producer involved in short food supply chains? I think that something can. Do you want to reply to this question, Nina?
Me? I mean, at this moment, I mean, I haven't addressed this kind of, I mean, these details in my presentation, so I'm not ready with the answer for this.
Yes. Okay. I'll try to provide an answer to your question. The entrepreneurial orientation, that's an issue that we try to address throughout our project. It is about how to build up this entrepreneurial mindset. So the idea that we tried to stress during the project was to think, I would say, out of the box, like an entrepreneur. Because normally it is seen like to be different undertaking a farm from undertaking a field. So we tried to stress a lot this point and to think at something that is innovative. Innovation is something that should be at the heart of the new way of thinking agriculture, and also ideas. Because what we tried to transfer during the course is that ideas are needed, and many times the experience tell us that it is the conventional way to undertake agriculture, to carry out agricultural activities that is itself without ideas, because it's something that is from the heritage, from what I learned from my father, from my grandfather, and so on and so on. Ideas mean changing by changing in the way of sticking to the future orientation, and the future lies in circularity. The future lies in rural development, and to accomplish this goal, we should come up with lots of ideas. We should start having ideas and learning by doing, I would say. That's our perspective. We try to transfer during the course. We developed some tools for evaluating, for example, the resources. I will address this aspect later on with my presentation. Anyway, is not specifically targeted to the level of entrepreneurship orientation that could be found at small scale. Okay. Now it's time for break. We have a 10 minutes break. If you don't have any other question, comments, we can take a break now, and we will see in 10 minutes.
I just have a question for Gianluca. If you can put me as host again.
I have done it already. Can you try?
Let me check. Yes, perfect. Okay.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I will follow you, but at the same time, I am in another meeting, so I cannot respond. But if you need me,
Thank you,
I'm here.
Professor Glory. Thank you, Professor Drajewska, for attending the meeting, for presenting, for bringing your point of view about these two important topics. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Yeah, thanks a lot also from my side. Thanks.
Thank you. See you in 10 minutes. the conference. I would like that at the end of the presentations, some students attending the business model competition and of course work-based experience will take the floor to spend some words about their experience. We have Cantu, who asked me to intervene at the end of the presentation, and I will give the floor to her. But I also recommend the others from other universities, from other partner countries to raise the hand and to spend a few words about the experience that you had. Okay, I think, Claudia, can you enable me to share the screen, please?
Yeah. Should be the host now.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. As I was saying, we start now with this second session of the presentations. What about this presentation? Now I'm going to address the AMA tools that we developed during the project. And then the other part, the AMA tool, are the tools that have been used by students to develop their project idea. The second part, the second presentation will be held by other colleagues from other universities who will introduce the general framework of the course, how the course run, and the details related to the course implementation. The last presentation is about the work-based experience and this presentation, as this part of the course was coached by farmers, will be taken by farmers. And you will see that we have farmer, because talking about education, because this is an educational project. Talking about education, we have very, I would say, valuable farms, because all of these farmers have a very good background in terms of academic CV. They studied abroad, they got master, so they learned a lot from the theoretical point of view, and they enhanced the awareness about the surrounding environment, and they exploited this awareness to come up with ideas. And from these ideas, very good realities born that are running in the field of multifunctional agriculture. But we will see this later on. Okay, about the tools. What we are talking about. It's an issue of innovation. We are an educational project. We developed an educational project, and everything related to the innovation refers to everything related to innovation refers to the innovation applied to education. So we try to develop tools useful for learning, that could be exploited by learners, and that could be applied by them in order to create their own multifunctional business. So we attempted to deliver innovation from the educational point of view, and our innovation are of two types. we offer this kind of innovation. One is related to the tools that have been developed, that were developed during the first year of the project. And then the second part is related, the second innovation is related to the structure, to the framework of this educational path that we offer. Anyway, we know that it's not the best one. Everything can be improved over time, everything, but it is a starting point in this field. As far as I'm concerned, we are concerned with the project. We know that this framework has rarely been implemented. We don't know that other similar experience around Europe, because during the first part of the project to come up with these tools, we investigated the educational offer around Europe and trying to collect the good practice already running in order to acquire this good practice and some way replicate this good practice within a bigger framework outline of the course. Okay, the first innovation so concerns the development of these two tools that are the Readiness Tool and the Business Model Canvas. So we have a tool that is used at the beginning. I have an idea, I try to frame my idea, but then I'm gonna deal with the resources. The resources should be evaluated somewhere before organizing these resources and putting them together in order to deliver something that makes sense. So the first tool that we developed is the Readiness Tool, that it's about assessing the readiness, how much a company, an organization, anybody having resources, the readiness to become multifunctional agriculture. In general, the idea is that how much am I ready to become multifunctional agriculture, starting from being a traditional farmer. So the idea is to turn the running farming to farmer to multifunctional farming. But let's see what we mean for readiness in depth. It's the first tool that should be considered, because as I said at the beginning of the project, we should consider what resources we have and what are the resources around us. And we will see that we tried to identify different dimensions to evaluate the resources and different dimensions to be evaluated, because we are going to provide a score, give a score to each resource, and this score will mean something. What does we mean for resources, surrounding resources? We mean natural resources, but also other resources, everything that can be useful for undertaking the business, the organization, for framing my business organization in general. Of course, we applied this principle on the agricultural sector and in particular to the multifunctional agriculture, because we want to be sustainable. We want to be sustainable from the environmental, the economic, and the social point of view, at least. So this idea is flowed into this tool, and the starting point is evaluating resources. Of course, we know that resources are scarce. So the less we employ resources, the better it is. And the more we employ renewable resources, the better it is. So we should pay attention when we consider all of these resources. Which one, if these resource can be substituted by a more sustainable one. This is something that an awareness that we should have when we evaluate resources. Okay, identifying resources before organizing them. So the framework is identifying resources, evaluating these resources, and then organizing resources. But the organization is something that refers to the second tool, that is Business Model Canvas. The idea is that this tool allows the user to identify what is the multifunctional dimension, one of the three multifunctional dimensions based on the resources that one should have the dimension that somebody could be closer to. So we have 3 dimensions according to the resources that I have. What is the dimension that I can that I should undertake according to the resource availability? Okay, let's go over here. We address the reason why, from the other point of view, the idea behind this tool is to reduce the risk of making wrong decision. Because selecting the proper resources, the suitable resources for our business idea means reducing this risk, and reducing the risk, the degree of mistakes in the initial stage when we've outlined our business ideas means reducing the risk of failing. Of course, this tool raises some issues, some points related to the meaning of multifunctional agriculture, because one evaluating that is evaluating the resources should ask himself, what about multifunctional agriculture? I'm dealing with multifunctional agriculture, but before going to the organization, to the structure of the organization, what do I mean for multifunctional agriculture? And this is a guide, a sort of guide, because it raises some questions. And before going over, it is a preliminary stage to raise this doubt and to figure it out. Okay, what about the Readiness Tool? It is available at our website, so you can find it just by browsing our best website. There is a page where it is indicated results. A specific link to the tools is available once you open this page. And what you find when you open this page, you find these 2 tools. So Readiness Tool and Business Model Canvas. By accessing the Readiness Tool, you find the instructions to use the tool that look like that. It's a PDF document. It's very easy to read. There are very short information, but it should be clear because we checked this many times, and also the framework to evaluate it and the different dimensions to be evaluated. But we will see what does it mean in a while. Okay, let's go back to the presentation. Okay, the other link is to the tool. So you have the instruction, but you have also the access to the tool. The tool is web-based. You cannot download the tool, install the tool on your laptop. It's just something that you can use online. And at the end of the process, you can download the result of this evaluation in PDF form. What this tool evaluates? 3 main dimensions. The first one is about the availability of resource. And it's like to reply to the following question. Does the resource exist somewhere? Somewhere means in the world, because now we no longer have geographical barriers. So we can get resources somewhere in the world without any barriers, perhaps. But we will evaluate this dimension. So the first dimension is about the availability of resource. I should just answer yes or no. Does this resource is a real resource? Is it a real resource? That's the question we should provide an answer. The second point to be evaluated is about the accessibility of this resource. And the accessibility is about the barriers to acquire this resource. Perhaps this resource exists somewhere in the world, but there are some barriers like geographical constraints, lack of suppliers in the area, international markets, high cost. So we should be careful in evaluating this aspect. The third aspect that is asked to be evaluated is about the resource quality. The quality is something related to the performance. So I consider the resources and I ask myself, what is the performance that I can implement from applying this resource? And this should be compared to the competitors, should be compared to the existing, the other organizations already running in the market, to the qualitative standard of the offer that I would like to provide to market, and other aspects that are specific to each specific context. How to mark each resource. You are asked to give a score to each resource, and this score ranges between 0 and 10, with the intermediary point that is 5, and we will see how to give this score, how this works. Anyway, to give a score, one should have knowledge, should be acquainted with this approach, this new approach that is multifunctional, methodological approach that is multifunctional agriculture. So one should first know what is multifunctional agriculture, should have an awareness about what are the resources to be considered, and what mainly impact on the business when we try to frame our business. So it's an issue related to capabilities, to knowledge, and to skills, of course. And for that reason, we connect this aspect to the eTOMATO course, which should provide, we hope that provides this information. So before doing this, we recommend to go through the eTOMATO material, to study the eTOMATO material, and then you use the tool. That's the process that we recommend. Okay, what about readiness? Let's see together how this tool works. Here you can find the link to use the tool and the instruction. We just go here and we find this outline, this outlook, and you find 3 different diagrams, and each one is linked to each specific dimension of multifunctional agriculture, as we taught for eTOMATO. So we find rural tourism, social and didactic farming, and short food supply chain. Let's try together how it works. You just try to add a resource here, and you can select your dimension, what is the name of the resource, and then you scroll down. We provide a list of resources that is the result of a focus group that we held during the project development. Anyway, we can customize the resource, and then you can add something that is not indicated in the list. How to do that? Just here, clicking here, add custom resource, and type the name of your resource. Okay, now, for example, camping area, we try to evaluate this. Is the resource available?
We cannot
somewhere?
see
Yes.
We cannot see your browser.
You cannot see my browser?
No.
Okay, sorry. Okay, now it should work. Can you confirm that? Can you see now?
Yes.
Okay, good. So just briefly to recap what I have already said. 3 different diagrams, each one linked to each dimension of multifunctional agriculture: rural tourism, social and didactic farming, and short food supply chain. So here you find the link to add resources, and just scrolling down this menu, you find that a list of resources that we already that we created. Okay, here just select your dimension, find related to linked to each dimension, you find a list of resources that we developed, we created during focus groups taken during the project development. This list of resources, we know that is not exhaustive. We tried to come out with as much resource as possible for each dimension, but of course we are aware that it's not a definitive list, it's not exhaustive. So you can customize your list, and just clicking here, you type the name of the resource that you'd like to assess, evaluate, and then add resource. Okay, let's try to do something with a resource already existing in the list for rural tourism. Let's go ahead, and here we should apply to this question. is the resource available somewhere? We know that camping area, private toilets can be found somewhere in the world. It's a resource available. Okay, we just click yes. Let's go over. Of course, the name of the resource, when you try to customize resource, is something that is strongly linked to our project idea. So we can think of something that is innovative. And to do that, we need for a resource that is not produced yet, for example, because it's something, it's the result of a recent innovation. So it does not exist somewhere. So it is not available for the time being. That's the right answer in that case. But in the case of the resource that we have you to find in the list, you find all the resources are available, more or less. Another thing is about the accessibility of the resource. It's about the evaluation of the constraint to access the resource, to acquire the resource, to obtain the resource. So yeah, you just evaluate from 1 to 10, where 1 means that it is quite impossible to get the resource. 2 or 3 depends that there are very strong, very hard barriers to acquire the resource. So I could give up or renounce to use this resource, or I'll try to do something else. Here you are in the middle, from 4 to 6. And you find also that this range of numbers is linked to a color. From 1 to 3, you find the red color. You should stop because you should change the resource at least. From 4 to 6, it's yellow. It's like traffic light. It's yellow. Yellow means that you should think of. You should think in depth if proceeding or changing the resources. Anyway, you are in the middle. You should make a decision. If you are between 7 and 10, you are fine. So you can use that resource. That means that you already own the resource. For example, give 9. Okay, it's green. We give 4, it's yellow. 2, it's black, it's red. Okay, let's go over. About the quality. I ask myself if the quality, if the performance that I can obtain by using that resource, it's enough compared to what already exists. And I try to give a score to this in this way to the quality. For example, 9. Okay, let's add this resource, and you find a plot that is the points plot in the diagram. You find that this chart at the end of the project will have many a scatter plot, and the more of the scatter plot is concentrated in the first quarter, in the upper right quarter, the more you are close to the dimension. So at the end of the process, you have to choose between 3 different sectors, and you find that the resources are concentrated here, but not here. Then the idea is that you can the tool suggests to outline something crossing these 2 dimensions at least, and perhaps thinking depth to this dimension. But for sure, you are suggested to proceed to exploit at least these 2 dimensions. Anyway, you can change some resources that do not work out very well, and if you find a substitute. Okay, at the end of the process, you can print the PDF where you find the result of your evaluation. That is something like that, list of resource. Here you have also a flag that is green in this case, otherwise it would be would have been yellow or red according to the mark given. Okay, that's about the, let's change the sharing, okay. Okay, now you can see again the presentation, is it right?
No, we are still seeing your browser.
No, okay. Sorry, okay. Now it should work.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, this was about the Readiness Tool. About the second tool, that is the business model canvas. Here, for the first tool, we developed something that is interactive. So you can use something, you can interact with the tool. In that case, you take the list of resources, evaluated resources from the first stage and use that, but by working on a document. So we provide just a framework. We do not provide anything that is interactive. And the business model canvas is something to organize resources. And to organize resources from many points of view that are all the points of view that matter for framing a business organization. Channels, market channels, customers, values, revenue streams, and things like that. We will see in a while. Okay, you find this document that is like this, but okay. Just clicking at this link, you find a document that can be downloaded. At the beginning of the document, you find a brief description of the literature behind this tool, that is part of this tool, and then 3 different frameworks, each one for each dimension of multifunctional agriculture. Also in that case, you'll find some questions to be answered and how to organize this, the answer to this question within a framework. Anyway, also in that case, we try to be exhaustive with the question, but you can find something else that is missed in our preparation. So the general framework is this one. You start from in the middle, you find key resources. We adapted a little bit this framework of business model canvas. And in the middle, you find key resources because you start from the resources. And of course, as resources, we also mean human capital. So you can customize that list. For example, in that list, if I'm not wrong, you don't find the human capital source, and you should qualify the specific human capital, the resource that you need for. And starting from this resource, you start organizing. What are the key activities to be undertaken, and what are the resources flowing into this box? And then we have the key partners to be engaged to use these resources, the value proposition. What are the values that you'd like to build up? And you know, the idea is that the new idea of creating a business is about creating value. It's not about just producing profit. The profit is just a part of the result. And this is part of the value proposition. What value do you propose? And how can you link these resources to the value? Cost structure, of course, because from the resources depends the cost structure of the nascent organization, the channels, the revenue streams, customer segment, customer relationship. For example, this customer relationship is of high importance for short food supply chain, because one of the main values that you're gonna build up is about trust. The trust to be created, to be established between seller and buyers, because it's short food supply chain is strongly related to the customer relationship and the value proposition, for example. Okay, at the end, I will close in a couple of minutes. The last tool that we created at the end of this project is about the help desk. What does it mean? At the beginning, when we wrote the project, we thought that something that could allow the team, the project team, to keep on offering these services of supporting anybody interested in acquiring these results, anybody interested in exploiting these results. So this help desk is targeted to academics, maybe interested in replicating the course, the framework, some part of this framework, things like that. Students may be interested in studying the MA, the multifunctional agriculture, in order to create their own MA farm. practitioners may be interested in turning the conventional farm into a farm, and anybody interested in the category of stakeholders is broad. So anybody interested in going through the result of eTOMATO can exploit the help desk. Let's see what we mean for help desks. I'm very close to conclude my presentation. Okay, here if we find the help desk, it is very easy. You find here some contacts from some representative of the university. Of course, we have other representatives. You just send an email to this representative, and then perhaps you can be turned to others. But it's just to keep on providing this service, to acquire the result, to use the result, to exploit the result. So if you should be interested, just to use this contact. And we cover 4 countries around Europe. Of course, this invitation is also to other attendees, others, I mean, from other countries not involved in the project. Here you find frequently asked questions about the project and the online resources of the project. And this is also to animate the debate. So you should have a question, you can put your question over there and you will be replied. Okay, I think that I'm through. Go back to the presentation. Okay, thank you for your attention. Now it's the turn of Margot and Francisco, that are professor at the University of Ghent and the University of Granada, respectively. And they will address the promotion, the eTOMATO course, the structure of the course, how it was framed. Okay, I will start. Okay, Claudia, how to give back the management of the, okay.
Yeah, you can find my icon.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Should work now.
Okay. I think you should be able to see the presentation. Can anybody confirm?
Yes, Claudia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Sorry, Louis, I'm the person that I have to start with the presentation. My name is Aida Pinos. Hello, everyone. And I'm happy to stay here. Thank you for inviting, and thank you everyone for attending to this second part of the conference. So I have participated in the eTOMATO project because I am a member of the University of Granada teams. And in this part, my colleague Paco from the University of Granada and Margot from the University of Ghent and me, we will try to explain what the course has consisted of. To start, next slide, Claudia, please. To start, the aims of the course, it's teaching on entrepreneurship inside the multifunctional agriculture, adopting business model successful and created educational pathway. So as an academic member, I would like to point out the possibility of this course to link, to join the theoretical part in the universities with a second part more based on the experience in the farms. And I considered that this it's too important, too relevant in order to combine the two different dimensions. So This is the aims, the objective in general terms. So in the next slide, Claudia, I'm going to try to explain briefly the structure of the course. So this course have three parts. In the first part, we about an entrepreneurial skill developed by the University of Ghent. We speak so generally about how the student can acquire some skill in order to ensure the success of the following models. So after my presentation, my colleague Margot can explain in more detail how they implementing this introduction course. So in the second part of the general course, which it's called e-learning model on multifunctional agriculture, the student could choose between three main topics. One of them was social agriculture. The second one was rural tourism, and the first one was short food supply chains. So in this part, the main tool use it in order to increase the knowledge has been the Readiness framework that Gianluigi explained at the beginning, and the business model canvas too. So the last part, the words but base experience, the experience in the farm, will implementing of course in our farms, farmers in different countries. And at the end of this conference, my colleague Yannick and Petya, I think that they can explain more about how was this part of the course, this practical part. So in the next slide, we can see how we organize the different part of the theoretical course. So as I previously said, the student could choose between the different topics. The first one was implemented by the University of Ghent. The second one about social and didactical agriculture was developed by the University of Foggia. Rural tourism was developed by the University of Granada, and last but not least, the short food supply chain was developed by the University of Plovdiv. So as you can see on the table, the first part, the theoretical part, was developed between March and April, depending on the university. And at the end, the last part, the works experience, was developed between July or September, when this training had ended. So next slide, please. In this table, you can see in more detail the contents of each model, different model. And I want to highlight the example of good practice that you can see in the first column. In each of the countries related to the content of the course. Of course, we apply, as I said before, business model canvas and Readiness framework in all the topics. So how the student can have some recognition with this theoretical and practical parts. So we can see in the next slide, Claudia. Okay, here we can see about the academic recognition. So from the three parts of the course that I explained before, the students can receive an academic recognition based on credit. So with the system of European credit transfer system, they receive in the first point 1.5 credit if they decide to do the mandatory introduction course. After that, when they choose one of the different 3 topics that I mentioned before, they can obtain 1 point credit more. So if they develop the theoretical part, they can have in total 3 credits. And the student who would choose for the work experience in the farm, they receive 6 extra credits for the experience. So in total, if you do the 2 parts, the theoretical and the practical in the farm, you can receive about 9 credits that it can suppose depend on the criteria of your university or on your degree, can maybe compensate one subject or one and a half subject in your degree. So in my opinion, this is a really good system in order to recognize the work of the student, and I mean that it's a complement to in their traditional academic training in a new topic, in a relevant new topic, how is multifunctional agriculture. And they can have an alternative training join with their degrees. And in our national seminar that we did in the last week, the student manifested that they was really happy with the experience, with the practical and with the theoretical lesson, because they can have an approach in this topic that they can accept with the degrees, because they can have a lesson about this topic in our degree. So that's all for my part. I think that's the next slide. About philosophy is for my partner Paco. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Let me tell you before of all that it has been a pleasure to share with my colleagues, to have the opportunity to participate in this project. Thanks to the university, thanks for the University of Foya and the other partners and universities. And for this slide, the philosophy of these courses has been related with learning by doing philosophy, pedagogical methods, searching for the involvement of students in participatory processes of discussion and reflection of problems, practical learning, systematizing experiences, study cases, and with the objective of acquire knowledge, discussion, and the sharing of different cases study cases, and put the student in the role of the manager or practitioner with the aim of developing the perspective of the author involved in a problem. The next slide, please, Claudia. On one hand, we have good practices defined as those experiences which have obtained successful outcomes. These good practices have been shared with the student and put in practice with a concrete activity. And on the other hand, the next slide, please, Claudia. Study cases. dealing with relevant problems which needed decision, strategies, or projects. A real story based on events and situations involving different kind of actors. You have in the table another example, in this case of study cases, share and put in practice with the student. The next slide, please, Claudia. The platform, it has been used a Moodle platform available at the link eTOMATO in a course as a storage space and feedback area between a student and teacher. The Moodle is there divided into the 4 modules mentioned before by my colleague Aida: Introduction on Multifunctional Agriculture, Social and Didactic Agriculture, Rural Tourism, and Sure Food Supply Chain. And each module presenting the following introductory structure: reference content, brief content, goal, skill, competencies, tasks, activities, evaluation criteria, etc. Next one, Claudia, please. This is a screenshot of this platform, of this Moodle platform, with all the material, activities, documents that we share with our students. Next slide. And the evaluation, we have different, we use different tools, activities to do the evaluation. Inside of each lesson, a specific and concrete question were designed at the end of each lesson. Additionally, for the evaluation of each module, midterm quiz and final quiz were prepared. But the more relevant tool to evaluate knowledge, entrepreneurship, tools, and skill of the student has been the elaboration of a multifunctional agricultural project, who has been explained by my colleague Gianluigi. And in the next slide, my colleague Margot will explain as well.
Thank you, Paco. Thank you, Aida.
Thank
so
you.
I will go a little bit more in depth about the introduction course. So on the one hand, there was a class on the rural development models and multifunctionality, which was developed by the University of Foggia. And on the other hand, we had classes on entrepreneurial skills, which were developed by the University of Ghent. The first class was on business plans and business canvas models. The next one was on marketing management. Third one was financial analysis, and the last class was on cost accounting. So the goal was to have these classes in person, but due to COVID, yeah, I think most universities had to teach the classes virtual. And the entrepreneurial skills are very important for everyone who wants to start a multifunctional agriculture farm. And actually, it's important for the success of every business to get some basic knowledge on these skills. Next slide, please, Claudia. Yeah, so here you can see a table with the amount of students who got enrolled in each module. So due to the effects of COVID, we had less students than expected because the classes were all virtual, and also the international work-based experience was changed to a national one. And then what we can see is that, especially in Bulgaria, there was lots of interest of the students. Yeah, you can go to the next slide. So I will also talk a bit about the results. So students could evaluate the courses, and overall, all students had good experiences with the content of the course, but also with the Moodle platform. We also saw that some of the students had some difficulties with English, but overall it was okay. We also got a comment from the students that in the future they would like even more practical examples in the slides. And I agree with that, but now we had to prepare slides for the 4 countries. So I think in the future it's important to develop country-specific examples in the slides. And then the last comment from students was that the introduction module should focus more on agribusiness rather than on general business. Yeah. And then the results from the business canvas model competition. So in total, 82 students participated and pitched their business canvas model ID, or their multifunctional agriculture ID. So they focused on short food supply chains, social and didactic agriculture, and rural tourism. The students got multiple evaluation moments before the actual pitch. And for the actual pitch, we included farmers to also give feedback and comments to the students. Overall, the students seemed to really like the experience because they got to be creative, and it's a good way to put the theory they've learned into practice. And then on the next slide, you can see one of the examples from students at the University of Ghent. So they proposed a business which provided accommodation at a cacao farm in Colombia. So they focused on rural tourism. Yeah. And that's it for the course outline. I hope everything was clear. And if you have any questions, please ask them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Margot. No, the session for questions is at the end of the 3 presentations. So we have now the 3rd presentation that is from Yannick, that is a farmer from La Jonquera, and Evi Van Kamp, that is from Gebroeders Berkamen from Belgium. So they will introduce the work-based experience. So as you are understanding, the process is that we prepared the course, we investigated the needs, we prepared the tools, the course started in class, and with the second part, e-learning modules that was made by materials, is made by materials available by the Moodle platform that we exploited, and whose access is available on our website. The last part of the course is about work-based experience. This part is introduced by our farmers. Please, Yannick.
Hi, everyone. My name is Yannick. I'm from La Jonquera. We're based in the south of Spain. And just to give you a small overview of our farm to understand a bit where we are at, I have a few slides about that. Could you go to the next one? So we are a team, well, already we're a team of more people at the moment, but Alfonso and me, we live on the farm with our daughter, and the farm is from Alfonso's family. And Alfonso is mainly running the farming part, and I'm running more the educational part together with Sanne and Jacobo. We are running something that's called the Regeneration Academy, which hosts students, entrepreneurs, also rural youth, all to learn more about sustainable farming and multifunctional farming. We do a lot of projects, programs, courses, open days, and all those type of things. Next slide. You could say that we live in a very barren kind of area, and therefore one of our main focus areas is to restore and regenerate the land. And we do this by a few ways. One is what we call regenerative farming. So we try to restore the soil, water, biodiversity on our farm through different practices. One is through education, because we believe that in our area, education is something that is often doesn't include sustainability, doesn't include any type of sustainable practices for farming. And we feel that we can add this to the local schools. And another one is the village. A village is also something that you see on the picture. So this was a village that used to have 150 people in the old days, so to say. And now, well, when we got there, there was nobody left. So we've been busy restoring houses, but also bringing young people to the countryside, bringing entrepreneurs and all that. Also with the idea that if we can be an example for farms and rural people in the area, that maybe they will also find it more interesting to stay and to come back to this rural life that we offer. Next slide. Yeah, so basically what we do is we work with soils, water, and biodiversity, which are the three main challenges in southern Spain. With soils, we work with compost. We try to improve soil fertility. We include animals. We have ground covers in certain areas where it's possible. And we do a lot of experiments. When it comes to water, we have ponds, swales, sediment traps, all to kind of catch as much water as possible because, well, as some of you might know, water is a very scarce good here in the south of Spain. And when it rains too much at once, and then it all erodes most of the land. The third thing that we focus on is the biodiversity, and the biodiversity is very important because in this area also a lot of the farming systems have become very intensive monocultures that don't have the capacity to host a lot of wildlife or host a lot of biodiversity. So what we're trying to do is by diversifying our management system, we also want to bring back a lot of animals, a lot of pollinators, make also a lot of hedges and borders in between. And this, we already seen the results of this practices. Next slide. Education is super important for us. So the main educational project on our farm is the Regeneration Academy. It's, as I said, the one that is mostly busy with students, but we also have something that's called ecosystem restoration camps. It's a volunteer organization that hosts volunteer experiences for people from all over the world that want to learn about ecosystem restoration, planting trees, diversifying, and all the things that we do. And then we also have, for example, a summer camp for kids. So that is more the education of the youth, which we do with both the farm, the ecosystem restoration camps, and the academy together. And it's a 2-week program in which we kind of go camping with 20 kids. And we learn about sustainability, we learn about farming, we learn about where does your food come from. And it's proven to be quite a valuable experience for all these kids that many times have never kind of questioned any of these things. So yeah, that's our educational part. And that's also, I think, where we are kind of different maybe than many other farms, because we offer quite a big range of real life experiences that students and other people can learn from. Next. Yeah, indeed, to kind of go a little bit more into detail on our academy program, it's also something where the students have helped with, is that we host a crash course. We host a student program of 4 months generally. Why 4 months is because we do believe that you need quite a long time to understand a farming concept, and also farming, like the idea and the context in which we're busy. This is, I think, also has been one of the challenges of having like someone for a short term, is that it really takes quite a long time to get your head around what we're doing. Especially the more complex I think a farm gets, the more multifunctional a farm gets, the more difficult it is to kind of show everything and to be part of everything in a very short amount of time. Next slide, please. So yes, we had the students, and I think first of all, it's been a very nice experience, because I think always having an exchange of someone from outside with this very local reality is something that's just interesting in itself, because you basically combine these two worlds. For us, what we've been doing with the student is practical farm work, so really getting your hands dirty, helping out with the vegetable garden, processing of vegetables. We had the 2-week summer camp that was a crazy busy time, and also the communication of all these things. So for us, the extra help was very nice, and also it gave also for example, the kids from the summer camp an idea of all the people that could be involved in rural life, because I think also for them, they've only maybe seen local people, and then all of a sudden we have someone from outside coming with a whole different background and a whole different world of experiences. So I think that's been very interesting also for the kids that participated. Next slide. Yes. I think some things that we learned from this experience was that, indeed, what I said, it's quite a short time to understand like the complexity of such a farming system, I think, especially when you have a farm that does many different things. I mean, this doesn't need to be a bad thing, but it's definitely something that I think we have to keep taking into account for the future, that it's not as easy to get the hang of it. I think it's been very interesting to have interactions also with the other farms, other universities from around Europe, because we always learn something from how they are doing things and how they're managing and how they're dealing with certain issues regarding the multifunctional farming. And I think it's also a very valuable experience for the student, because many times I think students have kind of like an idea of that they want to become farmers, and it's going to be very beautiful. And I think many times it's very good to get this experience on the ground, to also learn like how hard the work is, and that it's many times quite far away from maybe from other people, from cities, and all those kind of things. So I think that learning and also understanding if that is something that you actually like to do, I think it's super important for people that might think about going back to rural life or starting something in the countryside. So that for the student, I think that's super important. Next slide. Yeah, and I think for us, the eTOMATO has been one of our big stakeholders in the last years. We've also are part of the global network of lighthouse farms, where we've also been able to talk about the eTOMATO project and multifunctional farming. We've been part of a project from the EU called Climate Kick and ET Food, where we've also been able to discuss like how important it is to diversify and become more multifunctional. And we've written a manual also on this for the EU. And yeah, next slide. I think if you would like to know more about what we're doing, please also look at our website or ask a question through the email. And we're always going to be available for more discussions later. Thank you.
Thank you, Yannick, for your much interesting presentation. I think that also Evie has a presentation. Is it right?
Yes.
Oh, okay, thank you, Evie.
Yeah, normally Claudia has it.
Yeah. Claudia, can you handle the Evie presentation?
Yeah, one second. I'm just, because we're gonna start with a video this time. 1 second.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, maybe I can introduce the video, Claudia?
Oh, yeah.
Hello, together with my husband and brother-in-law, we have an horticultural company in Lier, Antwerp in Belgium. I want to start with the video of one of my internships because that's really good testimonial from her. She did an internship at our company in July and August for 1 month. She mainly helped us with the supervision of the children's camp and worked on a business canvas model to present the opportunities and bottlenecks of our company so that we could improve ourselves. And it's a really nice testimonial, so I would like to present it to you. I don't know, Claudia. Yeah, okay. Now there is no
yeah,
sorry. I came in contact with the eTOMATO program from Marco, who taught and assisted the class of advanced marketing and agribusiness management here in Ghent. So in my opinion, I found this class very different from my other classes because it provided students with an opportunity to think out of the box. And what I mean by this is that it's because this class gave us freedom to develop a business model for our final project, which had to take into account the agriculture and environmental aspects with services to society, which I found challenging and exciting at the same time. And to be able to do that, we were equipped with materials from the Moodle platform. And I found the materials very useful and they were easily accessible. Another thing that I appreciate most about this platform is that it is equipped with quizzes, which not only ensures students' understanding of the materials, but it's also very relevant and applicable. I remember one of the questions in the quiz was about VAT or value added tax. And I remember prior to that, I didn't know what VAT was. Although I saw it everywhere, but through this quiz, I got to know what it is and how it's calculated. And another thing that I appreciate about this class is that it gave us an opportunity to do an internship at a multifunctional agriculture company. And in my case, it's Regeneration. The virtual company visit provided by Marco really gave us an insight of what the company is about, what they do, and which really motivated me to do an internship there. So about the internship, I did my internship at Regeneration for 1 month, and I thoroughly enjoyed this experience. I think this internship is an added value to the class because it really gave me an opportunity to apply what I had learned in the class. For instance, I get to use SWOT and SWOT analysis to find the best business strategy for the company. It also gives me an experience to conduct a market and financial analysis of a real company, which I never did before. And last but not least, this internship also allows me to help in children's summer camp, which not only was it fun, but also allowed me to improve my knowledge in Dutch by learning it directly from children. In fact, I think this is actually the most fun part of the internship. So I personally am really satisfied with this experience. And if I'm allowed to give one feedback, I think it would be helpful for students to have a clear job description since the beginning, so we would know what to expect. So yeah, that's all for me. Thank you very much, Marco, Evie, and eTOMATO for this opportunity.
Voila. And then maybe the little presentation yet?
Yeah, just one second.
So we are a company that grow vegetables that we sell directly in our farm shop, on markets, and also to companies and restaurants. We also focus on an experience with the corn maze, children camps in the vacations, guided walks, and education tours. We are situated in Lier, nearby Antwerp in Belgium. Next slide, please. Thank you. Yes, we are specialized in the short supply chains and social and didactic agriculture. For us, it was really useful to see how other multi-agriculture farms in other countries works, because we learned what activities other farms were doing in their country. Unfortunately, it was a bit sad because of COVID. There was a less physical interaction between partners. So we have one physical meeting, and that was for us more valuable than the online meetings. But yeah, it was COVID and it was for everyone. The experience we had is really recommended for other agriculture companies because you can learn a lot from each other. Next slide, please. The interns, they guiding groups with the students in the July and August, but they also did make a business canvas model, and there they based on the Moodle platform. It were 2 international students who did an internship with us, and they helped us with the daily form activities, but also with the further development of the business canvas model and the marketing strategy. Even though there was a little language barrier between interns and children, everything went very well. And also the business canvas model they made, it was really an added value for us because we saw our opportunities, but also our weakness. And I think it's a really good model for other farmers, but also for students. Next slide, please. For the future, we will meet new people so we can learn from each other. I think there is in Belgium already a good education, but the practical knowledge and dissemination of multi-agriculture can be further improved because now we had a really good model and Moodle platform, and that's a platform also for other farmers. They want to change to multi-agriculture, they can use that. So it's a really nice thing, and I think it has to be contributed to other organizations because it's very important for the dissemination of multifunctional agriculture. And we hope that we would be involved in more projects because we learned a lot from eTOMATO, and it was a really nice experience. And I think when we can go to the other countries, in the future, it would be more nicer than now. So if there are any questions, you may also.
Okay, thank you, Amy. Thank you very much for your very beautiful video and for your presentation. Yes, that's the time for question. The time for question and comments. If anything, I would like to hear something from students who took part in the work-based experience. I received a message from Cantu that which is a student that has been selected at University of Foggia for taking the internship. Cantu? Okay. Hello, Cantu.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. Okay, how was your experience, Cantu? Do you think that the eTOMATO experience, the eTOMATO journey was useful for you? You found it useful? I specified that Cantu is one of the 2 students best performers selected for taking part to the business from the work-based experience. The other student is not here, but we have other guys, the students attending the course, who attended the course. Please, Cantu.
Okay, the first I want to say how much I appreciate this internship that I was given the opportunity to take part in. I'm being a member of Masseria Renenta. Is a multifunctional farm. It's activity range from the breeding of the bee and the production honey and something special, educational and school tourism with the aim of the making is get rely sensation of rural life where I stay live at home and I found a good place to work and touch with our hand. That's multifunctional means. All those for a short period, but I still feel so lucky that I have learned a lot of things. That was able to be immersed in the such professional working environment. Not only change to what the knowledge and the idea that we received, but I was also given to train to do the jobs by myself and contribute to the actual outcome of the awareness that goes along with my products. Last but not least, I would like to sincerely thank to Mimo and Barnabito and also Professor Gianluigi for supporting me so much during the internship. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Cantu. Any other intervention from the students? Any other comments? Any question that you'd like to raise? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for attending this event, and I remark that this event is available, is recorded, and therefore is available on our communication channel. So you will find it on Facebook and on our YouTube channel. Thank you all again for attending the meeting, and good luck for everything. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you very much.